A momentary scare becomes permanent appreciation by Rachel Czyzak. I never feared death. Frankly, since childhood, I've pictured heaven as a cheese and Ritz cracker buffet with the best Italian deli meats and Jesus. Count me in. In the same way that I've pictured heaven with such certainty, I've always wanted to be a wife and mother above all else. My first 30-odd years were filled with notable and enjoyable accomplishments and experiences, but none really mattered in comparison to my calling to family life. My husband of 6 years and I had just welcomed our third child, a sweet, dimpled blonde boy who captivated us all. We had typical struggles, sleepless nights that became sleepless months, and bare feet covered in Cheerio crumbs. It was a Tuesday, and my goal for the day was to parent well, love my husband, and shower. Yikes. Life surely changed from my corporate days. Because my goal list seemed insurmountable on my own, my aunt came over to help with the kids. 5 minutes after she arrived, I hopped into the shower, alone, for a few minutes of hygiene and sanity. I was doing the typical body wash, so routine I wasn't even thinking about it. I was planning on a Play-Doh craft I had seen on Instagram when I felt it. A hard, circular, undeniable lump in my breast. I swallowed. I told myself it was something weird nursing thing. I tried everything I knew to get the lump to move, dissolve, be something else. The oval lump, about the size of 2 peas, remained. Instantly, all memories of my mother's battle with breast cancer raced through my mind. I remembered her at 43, bald and fighting. Still, in what was supposed to be a relaxing shower, I thought of my sweet children, all under 4, building blocks in the family room, and began to mentally prepare for my own fight. The life I had wanted for so long was here, and now this. As I was getting dressed, I called my breast health specialist, who I had gotten a perfectly clear exam from in the previous month's cancer screening. I told them I'd found a lump. They told me they would see me in 8 weeks. No thanks. I called a competitive hospital who got me in the first available appointment in 6 weeks. This was not going to work. Don't the experts always say early detection is key? Don't these hospitals advertise same-day appointments? I was scared, angry, and my baby needed to eat. As a last-ditch effort, I texted my midwife, who had delivered my first and third children. Colleen, hope you are well. I found a breast lump and can't get an appointment for 2 months. Any thoughts? Within minutes, I had an appointment that afternoon. I then called my husband in tears. Walking into the hospital that afternoon, I was in a worried haze. It felt surreal. A trip to the hospital this afternoon was not on my calendar this morning as I sipped my cold and re-microwaved 3 times coffee. My husband, Tim, had met me in the lobby, always my best supporter and encourager. But when the nurse called my name to come back, he was not allowed to come. So I went ahead, alone, unsure of what would happen next. I was ushered to the mammogram center, got my locker and my gown, and had the mammogram and was told to wait on the table for someone to read the images. About 20 minutes later, a different nurse with a polite smile came back and moved me to an ultrasound waiting area. She had done this many times before. I was on what seemed to be a well-traveled conveyor belt-like experience for those with unfavorable images on their scans. Tim was waiting dutifully but uninformed. We both waited alone. As the ultrasound began, I stared at a watercolor-painted drop ceiling tile while John Mayer played in the background. The last time I was at an ultrasound was just 6 months ago. We were looking at our sweet baby. It felt just inconceivable. As tears welled in my eyes, the ultrasound tech, who I can assume was not supposed to give commentary, offered, "At least you caught it early." Not surprisingly, that did not make me feel any better. After all was said and done that day, I was again in a room alone when a scheduler told me I needed a biopsy of the lump to determine whether or not it was cancerous. I had asked for Tim several times, and they finally conceded and brought him back to me. I was relieved to be with him, and we scheduled a biopsy for the following week. That weekend, Tim and I decided to continue with our plans for a weekend in Florida. We went with just our infant, leaving the big kids behind. We sat in the sand, and I had just enough wine to feel hopeful. Maybe this wasn't cancer after all. Back from Florida and sitting in the very sobering breast cancer lobby once again, They called my name and I left Tim's side for the biopsy. The procedure was explained and sounded simple enough, though it wasn't clear they don't do many of these on mothers who are currently breastfeeding. And the procedure began. It was fine, tough, but I was ready for answers. After an hour, all tissues were collected and sent to the lab. I drove home with ice in my bra and prayed, tried to negotiate with God, and prayed some more. About a week later, I was in a dressing room at a mall when my phone rang. I knew those first 3 digits on the phone number meant it was the hospital. I answered and held my breath. The lump was a non-cancerous tumor, a lactating adenoma caused by all of the hormones of pregnancy and breastfeeding. I could barely stand as all of the worry leached from my bones. Clearly, none of the parenting books I had read mentioned tumors as a potential side effect of breastfeeding. The nurse who called said the tumor should go away as soon as I weaned my baby, and if it did not, it would be surgically removed. Another exhale. I took a drive to be alone and quiet with my thoughts after those results. Why did I jump to the worst case scenario, playing out my funeral and seeing my husband and children without me? I never feared death, but I surely want to raise our children and grow old with Tim. I felt gratitude to my midwife, my lifeline when I didn't know where else to turn. I felt overcome with thankfulness for another day to parent, to wipe the crusty counters, and I thanked God for another day to live, and apologized for trying to negotiate. Even though I know how this part of my story ends, writing it and rereading it makes my chest tight. As I tucked my family into bed tonight, I remembered this story and the fear, but also the good news and the relief. The contentment after the dust settled makes the mundane more spectacular. And as more distance comes between this time and the present, may the beauty of good health and family never escape any of us. Rachel loves to cook for family and friends and takes pride in the cheese boards she and her husband assemble for guests. She and Tim enjoy raising their family and traveling the world, especially France and Mexico. Rachel and Bill originally met during graduate school and ended up working together at the same company for many years before Rachel left to start her journey of motherhood. If you like this inspirational story, I encourage you to check out more from the book Beacons in the Darkness, Inspirational Stories from People I Know, available anywhere books are sold.